You live. You live, Sheikh. And you distance at the place too. I didn't eat right. Yes, Sheikh.
Question and answer session. One clip. I'm trying. I've been procrastinating for so long.
La ilaha illallah.
I was going to get a haircut from today, and they said they was in the back shit, so I came in, I see them setting the table up, and I was like, like that.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه أما بعد. I've selected tonight a small book, classic treatise, something that we translated some years ago in the Prophet ﷺ's sacred city of Medina. It was also translated by some other students of the College of Hadith as well. And it is the explanation of the Prophet ﷺ's hadith in which he said, 3 things follow the deceased. The 3 things that will follow the dead person to the grave. This book was explained by one of the great scholars of the medieval century, the 8th century, Al-Hafidh ibn Rajab, rahimahullah ta'ala. He says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Rabbi Yassir ya Kareem, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin al-Mustafa, wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallama tasliman kathira. في الصحيحين من رواية عبد الله بن أبي بكر بن محمد بن عمرو بن حزم عن أنس عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال يتبع الميت 3 فيرجع 2 ويبقى 1 يتبعه أهله وماله وعمله فيرجع أهله وماله ويبقى عمله. He says, ربي يسر يا كريم, my Lord, O Kareem, make it easy for me. All praise are for Allah, the Lord of all creation. May He extol and send prayers and blessings upon our leader, our master, our Sayyid, Muhammad al-Mustafa, and all of his family members, companions, and abundance to proceed. He says in Bukhari and Muslim, it is narrated by Abdullah ibn Abi Bakr ibn Muhammad ibn Amr ibn Hazm from Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu that the Prophet ﷺ said, 3 things follow the deceased. يتبع الميت 3. 2 things will return, 1 thing will remain. He says he is followed by his family, he's followed by his wealth, and he's followed by his deeds. His family will return, his wealth shall leave him and forsake him, and his deeds will remain with him. His deeds will remain with him. He then says, ورواه عمران القطان وحجاج بن حجاج عن قتادة عن أنس عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال ما من عبد إلا له 3 أخلاء فأما خليل فيقول ما أنفقت فلك وما أمسكت فليس لك فذلك ماله وأما خليل فيقول أنا معك فإذا أتيت باب الملك رجعت وتركتك فذلك أهله وحسبه وأما خليل فيقول أنا معك حيث دخلت وحيث خرجت فذلك عمله فيقول إن كنت لأهون 3 علي. He says إن كنت لأهون 3 علي أنا. He says there's another version of this hadith reported by Imran al-Qattan from Hajjaj ibn Hajjaj from Qatada from Anas that the Prophet ﷺ is quoted to have said, "Ma min abdin." Listen carefully to this variation of the hadith. He says there is no slave, no one, except that he has 3 akhillah, 3 khalils, 3 intimate friends, 3 close companions. He says the first of his intimate friends is the friend which will say, "Ma anfaqta falaka." That which you have spent in Allah's cause is for you. "Wa ma amsakta." That which you didn't spend, falaysa laka, is no longer yours. You're going to die, goes to your wife, your son, your mother, the lawyer, people that you owe. Al-Muhim, it's not yours in the grave anymore. He says, and that is his wealth. That's the friend. That's friend number 1. Friend number 2 is he who says, "I will be with you until you reach the gates." Until you reach the gates. He says here, and then when you do, I will leave you and I will abandon you. He says, and that is his family and his lineage, his background. And the third and final friend is he who says, "I will be with you when you enter, when you exit, wherever you go. Whatever the situation is, I'm with you all of the time." And that friend is his deeds. The deceased will say, "Indeed, you were the less important to me. You were the one who had the least significance to me. My money was more important. My status was more important. My wife, my children, my family members, my grandchildren, they were the people that I gave focus to. But my deeds," on that day he will acknowledge and say, "Only if I would have given you a little more time, a little more attention." The author he then says, ويروى نحو هذا من حديث النعمان بن بشير مرفوعا وموقوفا وتفسير هذا أن ابن آدم في الدنيا لا بد له من أهل يعاشرهم ومال يعيش به فذان صاحبان يفارقانه ويفارقهما فالسعيد من اتخذ من ذلك ما يعينه على ذكر الله تعالى وينفعه في الآخرة فيأخذ من المال ما يبلغ به إلى الآخرة ويتخذ زوجة صالحة تعينه على إيمانه فأما من اتخذ أهلا ومالا يشغله عن الله تعالى فهو خاسر كما قالت الأعراب شغلتنا أموالنا وأهلنا فاستغفر لنا وقال تعالى لا تلهكم أموالكم ولا أولادكم عن ذكر الله ومن يفعل ذلك فأولئك هم الخاسرون وقال تعالى وما أموالكم ولا أولادكم بالتي تقربكم عندنا زلفى إلا من آمن وعمل صالحا. He says there are other narrations from Nu'man ibn Bashir, from the Prophet ﷺ, and also from his own statement. He says this is interpreted to mean the son of Adam lives. He has to have some type of money to survive. And he has to have some type of family to find comfort in. One way or another. A lot of money or a little bit of money. A beautiful wife or not so beautiful wife. A righteous wife or a wicked wife. A nice husband or a bad husband. A lot of children or little children. Al-Muhim, everyone has some type of family and some type of mal, some type of wealth. Whether it's gold and silver, gold and nuggets, gold and bars, gold and coins, or bread and water. Something that he owns that is a means of his basic survival. He says, and they will leave him and he will leave them. He says, so the Sa'id, the happy one, quote unquote, the lucky individual, is he who takes his wealth, who takes his wife, his children, as a means of traveling to the hereafter. They're nothing more than a ship, a temporary ride to the final destination. Allah has given me wealth, alhamdulillah, and I use that wealth to take care of myself, look after myself. I give zakah, first and foremost. I give sadaqah, and the money does not control me. It doesn't own me. It doesn't dictate to me what I do and do not. And also the family, the children are a means of happiness, a means of bliss. Looking at your child, how your daughter looks like you, talks like you, how your son has characteristics of you. It makes you happy. Say, subhanallah, look at my son, look at my boy. Your grandmother, your mother, she says, he was just like you when you were younger. He did the same thing. He used to do that when you were his age. And you realize that someone gave you that son, gave you that daughter, and you thank him. You appreciate what you have, and it makes you more righteous and more pious. He says that's the Sa'id. He says, as for those And also taking a wife that will aid you upon your iman, a righteous wife. He says, as for those who take money, who take wealth, who take women and children, husband, they take their family members and they preoccupy them from Allah. They busy them from the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then they are losers. They are not winners. They are losers. Allah the Exalted, He says, quoting the A'rab, the Bedouins, the nomad Bedouins, those people who made an excuse, those munafiqeen and others, they made an excuse not to fight in Allah's cause. When the Prophet ﷺ and the companions, when they came back and they were victorious, they had spoils, they had won, they wanted a piece of the spoils. They wanted some of the glory, some of the honor. And they made an excuse why they didn't go out and fight with the Prophet ﷺ. They said, "Shaghalatna amwaluna wa ahluna fastaghfir lana." They would say, indeed, our wives, our children, and our wealth, our property, they preoccupied us. So ask Allah to forgive us. It's the excuse that they make. We couldn't ride in Allah's cause. We couldn't do what we were supposed to do because of our family responsibilities. Allah the Exalted, He also says, do not be preoccupied by your wealth nor your children from Allah's sake, Allah's cause, Allah's dhikr. And those who do that are the khasirun. They are the losers for sure. Allah the Exalted, He also says, it isn't your wealth, nor is it your children that bring you close to us, except for those who believe and work deeds of righteousness. No matter how many sons you have, no matter how many wives you have, how many estates, how much property you have, that doesn't get you closer to Allah unless you use them as a means of getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we benefit from this. Before we go any further, that is nothing wrong with being wealthy in Islam, as many people think and feel. There's nothing wrong with being wealthy. If you're wealthy and you're thankful and you're righteous, that is a blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is nothing wrong with you saying that I want to marry a wife that's beautiful. There's nothing wrong with that. A sister says, I want to marry a brother that's handsome. I just don't want to marry anybody. I want to marry someone that I'm attracted to. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having an abundance of children. There's nothing wrong with having a good, nice family. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as it does not preoccupy you and cause you to forget about the purpose of your creation. As long as it isn't an excuse for you to do deeds of righteousness. Because you may not forget about Allah. You may not forget about the purpose of your creation, but it may hold you back from doing what you're really supposed to do. I paid the zakah, but now there's an opportunity to give sadaqah. I can't because of my children. I can't because of my house. I can't because of my car. Now you have a what? Now you have a problem. Rather, the righteous wife is the one who is to tell the husband, give the money. But we don't have that much. I say, she says what? Give it. But I worked hard and I promised to buy. She says what? Give it to you. Give it to him, honey. Give the sadaqah. That's the righteous wife. The pious wife. The pious, righteous husband is the one who helps his wife and vice versa. He then says, قال الحسن وهو في جنازة ابن آدم لإن رجعت أهل ومال فإن الثوى فيهم قليل. He says here, Al-Hasan al-Basri, he said, one day he was at a funeral and all of a sudden he says, O son of Adam, if you're given life, if you're resurrected, if you go back to your wife or your wives and your family, he says, فَإِنَّ الثَّوَى فِيهِمْ قَلِيلٌ. He says, then you only stay for a short period of time. If you get a second chance that you want, it's not ever going to last what? Forever. It's not going to be eternal. وفي الحديث ابن آدم عش ما شئت فإنك ميت وأحبب من شئت فإنك مفارقه واعمل ما شئت فإنك ملاقيه وكن كيف شئت وكما تدين تدان فإذا مات ابن آدم وانتقل من هذه الدار لم ينتفع من أهله وماله بشيء إلا بدعاء أهله له واستغفارهم وبما قدمه من ماله بين يديه. وقال تعالى يوم لا ينفع مال ولا بنون إلا من أتى الله بقلب سليم. وقال تعالى ولقد جئتمونا فرادا كما خلقناكم أول مرة وتركتم ما خولناكم وراء ظهوركم. فأما أن خلف من يدعو له من أهله أو قدم شيء من ماله فإنه ينتفع به كما في صحيح مسلم عن أبي هريرة عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال إذا مات الإنسان انقطع عمله إلا من ثلاث إلا من صدقة جارية أو ولد صالح يدعو له أو علم نافع. Ibn Rajab, he then says, it states in another hadith, another narration, O son of Adam, عش ما شئت Live how you want to live. Live as long as you want to live, but you must die. O son of Adam, love whomever you please to love. You can befriend this one, you can befriend that one, man, woman, that's fine. Do whatever you want to do. Know for sure that you will leave them one day. The strongest bond, the best friend, the wife that you love the most, the husband that you love the most, know one thing for sure, somebody's going to pass. And someone is going to leave, their friend. He then says, the hadith states, and perform whatever deeds you want to perform. وَأْمَلْ مَا شِئْتَ فَإِنَّكَ مُلَاقِيهِ. Do whatever you want to do. You want to pray? That's fine. You don't want to pray? That's fine. Say to your daughter, you want to wear hijab? That's fine. You don't want to wear hijab? That's your own problem. Know for sure that you will meet your deeds. Everybody understand this? Do whatever. There's no coercion. I can't force you, son, to be righteous. I can't force you to get your education to do right. But know for sure you're going to taste the fruits of your labor one day. You're going to grow up. Years will go by. I'm not going to be here to save you. You don't have to listen to me. You don't have to take my advice. Know for sure you are going to come face to face with everything that you did. What you sow, you reap what you what? What you sow. The hadith then says, وَكُنْ كَيْفَ شِئْتَ, and be however you want to be. وَكَمَا تَدِينُ تُدَانُ, because how you treat people, you will be treated. You'll be treated how you what? How you treat others. He then says, so therefore, whenever the son of Adam dies, and he leaves this dar, he leaves this land, this house, this place, this abode, the dunya, he won't benefit from his wealth, nor will he benefit from his family members unless they make dua for him, unless they ask Allah to forgive him. That's the family member, the wife, the son, the grandson, that is going to help you while you're in your grave. So we should benefit from this. We should teach our children to be respectful, to be benevolent, to be kind. We should always teach them, when I die, when I go, don't forget about me, son. Make dua for me. Pray for me. That's the way of you honoring your family and your father and repaying me. Everybody understand this? Going to school, getting a degree, having a big house on the hill, that's fine and that's peachy. But don't forget, when I'm placed into that grave, I need your dua. And that's the righteous child. He then says, rahimahullah, Allah the Exalted tells us in the Quran and Surah Al-Shu'ara, on the day which children and wealth will be of no avail, unless those who go to Allah with good hearts, with pure hearts. Allah the Exalted, He also tells us in Surah Al-An'am, وَلَقَدْ جِئْتُمُونَا, He says, indeed you have come to us فُرَادًا كَمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. He says, you have returned to us individually as we created you. We say in the famous cliche, born alone, die alone. When you were born, there was no wife, there was no child, there was no son, there was nothing but you. Allah says, on this day you have returned as we what? Initially. فُرَادًا كَمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ وَتَرَكْتُمْ, and Allah says, and you left behind that which we lent you. Allahu Akbar. What we lent you is what? Not what was yours. Allah doesn't say what we gave you. Allah says, مَا خَوَّلْنَاكُمْ, that which you what? Temporary. Your possessions, your family members, all those things are what? It's a loan, and it must go back. The author, rahimahullah ta'ala, he then says, as for those who leave behind righteous children, righteous family members who make dua for them, or righteous good deeds with one's wealth, then that's a benefit. Walillahi alhamd. As it states in Sahih Muslim, the Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu narrated the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, when the slave dies, when the servant dies, when the human being dies, all of his deeds, he will stop benefiting therefrom except three. He'll cease to reap the rewards from all of the deeds that he performed except for three. The first is sadaqatin jariyah, continuous sadaqah. He gave to a charity, to something that was going to be built and established in the future. He says, or a righteous child that prays for insan, or ilm nafi', beneficial knowledge. So just think about, if you learn Sharif, you go and you study and you teach people, how many people will benefit from your ilm after you passed away? As some of the pious predecessors said, some of them said was Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. It says, Inna al-ilma walad al-rajul al-mukhallad. It says that knowledge is a man's eternal son. Knowledge is your eternal son. The son that what? Never dies. You'll be alive, you'll be mentioned as long as the what? The ilm that you passed and you spread throughout the people still remains. He then says, As-sahibul awwal al-ahl. He says, now let's break down the three friends. The first friend, al-ahl, family. فأهله لا ينفعه منهم بعد موته إلا من استغفر له ودعا له وقد لا يفعل وقد يكون الأجنبي أنفع للميت من أهله كما قال بعض الصالحين وأين مثل الأخ الصالح أهلك يقتسمون ميراثك وهو قد تفرد بحزنك يدعو لك وأنت بين أطباق الأرض. He says the first friend is family. No one will help you from your family members except for those who pray to Allah for you. He says sometimes a stranger could be more beneficial, better for you than your own flesh and blood. Your own flesh and blood. He says they are splitting up your ends, the money that you left behind. Who gets what? I deserve the house. I deserve the boat. My name is on the deed, on the lease. He divorced you. I was his last wife. You're not from the first marriage. So on and so on and so on and so forth. This is the reality. Anyone who's dealt with a funeral, you bring in a lawyer, people will go at each other's throats for pieces and scraps. For pieces and scraps. He says this is what the family is doing. And there may be a stranger, someone who wasn't related to you from a different country, a different background, a different borough, a different part of New York, a different city, whatever the case may be, who's actually praying for you. And he's actually sad and he's grieved. But he's sad not because of his loss. I lost my friend, I lost my brother, I lost my teacher, I lost my student. But he's sad because he knows that you're going through a fitna right now. That you're being tested and questioned. And that even if you're not punished in the grave, Allah protects you from the adhab of the grave, then there's a squeezing of the grave, a snugness of the grave. Waliyadu billah, as mentioned in other ahadith. Not the punishment, but the what? Dajjat al-qabr, or the dammat al-qabr, the tightness of the grave. But that's a very long issue in itself. He then says, rahimahullah, فَمِنَ الْأَهْلِ مَنْ هُوَ عَدُوٌ كَمَا قَالَ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى إِنَّ مِنْ أَزْوَاجِكُمْ وَأَوْلَادِكُمْ عَدُوًّا لَكُمْ فَاحْذَرُوهُمْ ومنهم من يشغل عن الميت بحصول ميراثه كما قيل تمر أقاربي جنبات قبري كأن أقاربي لا يعرفوني وذو الميراث يقتسمون مالي ولا يألون إن جحدوا ديوني قد أخذوا سهامهم وعاشوا فيا لله أسرع ما نسوني. He says here, there are some family members who are enemies to you. Not necessarily enemies with regards to worldly affairs, but religious affairs. That's your blood, it's your blood brother, your twin, looks just like you, your own son, and is actually an enemy and an adversary to your soul. Do we understand what this means? It can be your own flesh and blood that is no good for you Islamically. Your own daughter, your own wife, those you're related to, you're connected to them, and they could be what? Enemies to your soul, and not necessarily to your body. Your wife, she'll feed you, she'll clothe you, she'll give you everything you need and want. But when it comes to Salat al-Fajr, or Jum'ah, or growing your beard, or Riba account, and this and that, she pushes you in the direction of disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And anytime you even think about advising her, admonishing her, teaching her, let's go to the masjid, let's go to the class, I bought you an overgarment, it's an instant argument in the household. Don't even talk about that. Don't try to judge me. You're this and you're that and so on and so forth. Remember the time you did this? Remember the time you said that? Just yesterday you were like me. Now you're super duper religious. Now you went to the class. Now you became friends with such and such. And fulan, now you're a saint. This is reality in many households, unfortunately. And the only thing that he said to her was, let's try to be religious. Let's try to practice the deen better. And she gives you an entire war and a campaign. No doubt this woman is an enemy to you. No matter how much you love her, no matter how long you've been with her, she is no good for your soul. And the opposite is the opposite. It's not just against women. It could be a man, and there are many brothers who hold their wives back from righteousness, who hold their wives back from being pious and being religious and being upon the sunnah, from seeking ilm. They'll make any excuse not to go to the class, not to listen to the class. Don't listen to this brother. Don't listen to him. Don't do this. Don't do that. But when it comes to going to college, going shopping, taking the kids out, tafaddali. You don't have to ask my permission to leave the house. I'll buy you a van. You can go out, go wherever you want. Not to the masjid, to the class though. You can buy, dress how you want. Don't wear the niqab. Don't be religious. Don't be pious. He's an enemy to this woman, whether she realizes it, whether she acknowledges it or not. Ibn Rajab, he says, Allah the Exalted tells us, Inna min azwajikum, from your family members, your wives, your spouses, wa awladikum, and your children, your sons and your daughters, aduwan lakum fahdharuhum. Allah says enemies, so beware of them. That's what Allah says. If you're not willing to accept the reality of the Quran, may Allah help you. He then says, and many people, when the deceased is placed into the grave, there's a funeral, they become busy with the money, with the property, with the estates, and with the policies. As a poet said, Tamurru aqaribi janabati qabri. He says, my relatives pass by my grave. Ka'anna aqaribi la ya'rifuni. He says, as if my relatives don't know me anymore. وَذُو الْمِيرَاثِ يَقْتَسِمُونَ مَالِي وَلَا يَأْلُونَ إِنْ جَحَدُوا دُيُونِي. He says, and my heirs, they're splitting it up, they're dividing, they're subtracting, they're multiplying, they're getting their piece of the of the pie. They're getting their piece of my wealth. And they have forgotten me. As if they have what? Forgotten me, and as if they have neglected my debts. They're not worrying about what I owe. Am I going to be punished in my grave? Am I going to be held back? They want their property. He owed me this. You know that, right? That was mine, right? You know that. It's the first thing most people say. Who does he owe money? Whose possessions does he still have in his house? How can we look after him? Most people, they don't think about that, unfortunately. He then says, they've taken their portions, their lots from my wealth. He says, فَيَا لِلَّهِ. He says, Allah, how fast they have forgotten about me. وقال الحسن أزهد الناس في عالم جيرانه وشر الناس ميت أهله يبكون عليه ولا يقضون دينه. Al-Hasan al-Basri, he says, أزهد الناس في عالم جيرانه. He says, the people who have the least concern and the least desire for the knowledge of a righteous, knowledgeable man, his own neighbors. His own what? His own neighbors. The people that are closest to him are those who take the what? The least from him. And as others, they have said, the people who benefit the least from the learned man, his own family members. And you think it's a reality, just look at it. Imam of the masjid, the local resident scholar, the person who has ilm, he's among his people. Class, khutbah here and there. But he's invited to the UK, to Canada, to South America, this country. People will pay for tickets, thousands of dollars, visas, all types of arrangements are made to bring you to my country, to my continent. But in your own hometown, your own city, your own masjid, you give a class and there's just a few scattered people, what? They sit with you. This is a reality. And they said this over 1,000 years ago. Lil asaf, unfortunately, except for the people whom Allah Azza wa Jal gives the tawfiq. وَقَلِيلٌ مَهُمْ. And they're just a few people. But in most cases, this is the reality. The local person is what? The jealousy, envy, I don't have time. But they're someone in another country, another time zone, another language. They're the most diehard fans for this one item. He then says, rather, he says what? He goes on to say, rahimahullah ta'ala, and the greatest enemy to the deceased is the family members of the deceased, his own family. They cry and they don't repay his debts. يشير إلى أنهم يفعلون ما يضره ويتركون ما ينفعه فالبكاء إذا كان معه ندب أو نوح أو تسخط يعذب به الميت. He says if they cry, if they wail, if they scream, if they shriek, if they cry out, ask why, how did God, he's in a better place right now, and if they do these things like this, he says, then the deceased will be punished. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. You'll be punished in your grave because of your family members wailing over you. How does this hadith, what does this hadith mean? How can a person be punished for the deeds of someone else? Kaif. Some of the ulama, they say this hadith means that if he did not teach his family and instruct them and prohibit them before he died, then he'll be punished. In other words, from the etiquettes of the husband is to teach his wife, when I die, make sure you hold yourself together. Crying is permissible. Sadness is an emotion you can't control as a human being. But wailing out, screaming out, questioning Allah's decree. Why and how? My husband never did anything to anybody. He was a good man. That's something that you should have talked to your wife about. And not only spoken to her about it, but you should have cultivated her until it became something that was solidified in her heart. Over and over and over again. And obviously you can't do that unless you talk to your wife about death. Unless the conversation of death, what? Comes up frequently and abundantly. So if you're totally heedless from death, if your wife is totally heedless from death, if you never discuss the reality of the hereafter with your wife, how are you ever going to train her and make this repetitive practice? Until it becomes instinctive for her to do what? Hold back from wailing out loud. Just like a practice, a play. We keep going over, rehearsing it, what? Over and over and over and over again. If I'm tired, if I'm exhausted, if I'm fatigued, if adrenaline is running, the next move is what? Instinctive, because I've practiced it so many times. It's rehearsed. And this is the concept of the hereafter. Talk to your children, talk to your families. When I go, don't wail at my funeral. When I go, don't scratch your face and rip up your clothes. When I go, don't curse Allah. Death is a reality. I'm not always going to be here with you. It's going to come a time in which what? Sooner or later. So some of the people of knowledge, they say, this is the meaning of the hadith. That the deceased Muslim or the deceased, he will be punished in the grave because of his family members crying and wailing over him. He then goes on to say, فَهَذَا أَحَدُ الْأَخِلَّاءِ الثَّلَاثَةِ وهو الأهل يصلون مع خليلهم إلى باب الملك وهو اللحد ثم يرجعون عنه. He says here, so this is the first friend, and this friend is the category of one's family. They will be with their beloved, their Khalil, until they reach the gate. The gate being what? The lahd, the niche in the grave. Once he reaches there, the relationship is severed. They're no longer friends anymore. As-sahib al-thani, the second type of friend. وَأَمَّا الْخَلِيلُ الثَّانِي فَهُوَ الْمَالِ وَيَرْجِعُ عَنْ صَاحِبِهِ أَوَّلًا وَلَا يَدْخُلُ مَعَهُ قَبْرَهُ ورجوع كنان عدم مصاحبته له في قبره ودخوله معه. وقد فسر بعضهم المال الراجع بمن يتبعه من رفيقه ثم يرجعون مع الأهل فلا ينتفع الميت بشيء من ماله بعد موته إلا ما كان قدمه بين يديه فإنه يقدم أو يقدم عليه وداخل في عمله الذي يصحبه في قبره. وأما ما خلفه وتركه فهو لورثته لا له وإنما كان خازنا لورثته. وفي صحيح مسلم عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال يقول ابن آدم مالي مالي قال وهل لك يا ابن آدم من مالك إلا ما أكلت فأفنيت أو لبست فأبليت أو تصدقت فأمضيت. وفيه أيضا عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال يقول العبد مالي مالي إن ماله من ماله ثلاث ما أكل فأفنى ولبس فأبلى وأعطى فأقتنى وما سوى ذلك فهو ذاهب وتاركه للناس. وفي صحيح البخاري عنه صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال أيكم مال وارثي أحب إليه من ماله قالوا ما منا إلا ماله أحب إليه من مال وارثي قال فإن ماله ما قدم ومال وارثه ما أخر. Ibn Rajab rahimahullah ta'ala, he then says, as far as the second friend, then it is one's wealth. One's wealth. He says, وَيَرْجِعُ عَنْ صَاحِبِهِ أَوَّلًا. It is the very first thing to do what? Leave. The very first person to forsake him. And he would not enter the grave with the deceased. And the wealth leaving him, he says, is an indirect expression of him not using it and not benefiting from it in his grave. In other words, a person says, how does one's wealth follow him to the grave? I die, all of my savings, all of my property, my houses, my cars, whatever I left behind, is still where? It's still there. In the bank, in the shoebox, behind the pane, underneath the refrigerator, it's still there. Everybody understand this? So how does the Prophet ﷺ say that the wealth follows the deceased person to the grave? Some of the ulama, they say, first and foremost, this is a kinaya. As if the Prophet ﷺ is saying, you're not going to benefit from your wealth at all. Even though it's something that you want to take with you, and that you hoard it, and that you were greedy in the worldly life. And other ulama, they say, what's meant by the wealth are, first and foremost, the things that go to the graveyard. And if you look at 2016, it's very applicable. Because who pays for the funeral? In most cases, or oftentimes, the funeral comes out of whose wealth? The hearse, the procession, the flowers. Where does this money come from? So that's his wealth doing what? Following him. Let alone those who will inherit from him, those whom he owes, and things like this. Rather, unfortunately, there's some people who are so, as we say, grimy and have so little shyness. They'll discuss all of these financial affairs at the what? At the funeral. Everybody's crying. Some people may not be crying. He says, you know, you owe me money, right? I'm sorry for your loss, but money. Just like that. Is this not a reality? Just like that. You know, I need my money, right? She's grief-stricken, crying, but he says, hey, if I don't say anything to her today, I know. Whack at that. He says, so these things here, they follow him what? To his grave. So those whom he owes, those whom inherit, the people who have his possessions, and one way or another, they're actually what? Following him as well. Ibn Rajab rahimahullah ta'ala, he then says, in Sahih Muslim, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, O son of Adam, or the son of Adam, he says, Mali, Mali, my money, my wealth, my wealth. It will be said, it is said to him, وَهَلَّكَ يَبْنَ Adam, O son of Adam, what money do you actually have? What wealth did you actually keep? What is, quote unquote, your money? Do you actually own anything? Was there a time in which you owned anything? The hadith says, your wealth, O son of Adam, إِلَّا مَا أَكَلْتَ فَأَفْنَيْتَ. He says, that which you ate, that which you wore, and that which you gave sadaqah. Other than that, it's not really your wealth. Everybody understand this? I used my money and I benefited from it. I ate from it. I put on clothes and I gave sadaqah. Other than that, those things, they do what? They stay and they remain. It's also in Sahih Muslim that the Prophet ﷺ said that the slave says, Mali, Mali, my money and my money. His wealth is one of three things, and that's it. That which he ate, that which he wore, and that which he gave. Other than that, it's not actual or actually his money. Anything besides that, the hadith says, وَمَا سِوَى ذَلِكَ, anything besides those three goes back to those who inherit from him, the heirs. And he mentions another hadith in Sahih Bukhari, in which the Prophet ﷺ is quoted to have said, أَيُّكُمْ مَالُ وَارِثِهِ أَحَبُّ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ مَالِهِ. He says, which one of you, the wealth of his heir is more beloved to him than his own wealth? Which one of you was like this? They said, there isn't any of us like this, O Messenger of Allah, ﷺ, except that he loves his own wealth instead of the wealth that was given to his heir. The Prophet ﷺ said, the son of Adam, his wealth is that which he put forth, and that which he kept behind will remain to his what? His heir. So which one do you love more? Which do you want to actually benefit from? The wealth that you hoard and you store, that you love so much, is not going to be what? It's not going to be yours. The wealth that you spend in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's cause, that you may see a loss in, is going to be what? Actually yours. Everybody understand this? The money that you save goes to someone else. The money that you spend and that you deplete it from is going to be what? Yours. Everybody understand the hadith? He then says, فَلَا يَنْتَفِعُ الْعَبْدُ مِنْ مَالِهِ إِلَّا مَا قَدَّمَهُ لِنَفْسِهِ وَأَنْفَقَهُ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ فَأَمَّا مَا أَكَلَهُ لبسه فإنه لا له ولا عليه إلا أن يكون فيه نية صالحة وقيل بل يثاب عليه مطلقا فأما ما أنفقه في المعاصي فعليه لا له وكذلك ما أمسكه ولم يؤدي حق الله عز وجل منه فإنه يمثل له شجاعا أقرع يتبعه وهو يفر منه حتى يأخذ بلهمزتيه ويقول أنا مالك أنا كنزك ويلقمه يده فيقضمها قضم الفحل وإن كان المكنوز ذهبا أو فضة جعل صفائح فأحمي عليها ثم كوي بها جبينه وجبهته وجنبه. He then says, rahimahullah ta'ala, the slave only benefits from one or two types of wealth. First and foremost is that which he spent on himself and that which he spent in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's cause. The money that is saved, that is stored, that is invested is of what? Is of no benefit. I ate, I drank, I wore, I rode, I actually spent on myself. Or I spent on the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's it. Anything else is going to remain and stay and be given to your heirs. He then says, so that which you use to eat and that which you use to clothe yourself is not for you or against you. It's not for you or against you unless you have a righteous intention. As we mentioned, when you sleep with the intention of getting up. When you eat with the intention of getting stronger to worship Allah. You wear clothes, you work, you take care of yourself with the intention of performing and practicing Islam. And if that's not the case, then it isn't beneficial, nor is it necessarily harmful. It's nothing unless you have a righteous intention. He then says, and others, they say the exact opposite. As far as the one who spends his wealth on disobeying Allah, then it isn't for him at all. Rather, it is upon him. It's against him. And also those who don't spend their money on haram things, but they don't give the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the zakah. They do not pay the zakah. He says, and then on the day of judgment, that wealth will be turned into a great serpent, a huge viper, a snake. And this snake has so much poison in it, and it's so deadly. He says what? Or not necessarily poison, but venom. He says that the snake is so venomous, aqra, that the snake has no hair, no fur, nothing on his head. There's so much poison in it. It has become, quote unquote, bald. He then says, the snake will chase him and he will run from him. And the snake will grab and bite down upon his face. And he will say to him, I am your wealth, I am your treasures. And he will continue to bite him and bite him and bite him. Waliyadu billah. He said, a snake. Yes, a snake, Sheikh. A snake. May Allah protect us from that. I mean, he says, as far as gold and silver, then it will be, the gold and the silver, it will be made to melt. Everybody understand this? Molten. And it will be placed on one's forehead, on one's flanks, and one's back. Waliyadu billah. Just imagine how hot something has to be to melt gold and silver. The boiling point of metal. How hot is that? It's pretty hot. The boiling point of water is what? It's pretty hot. But the boiling point of what? Metal. Everybody understand this? He then says, after mentioning a few lines of poetry, فَمَنْ تَحَقَّقَ هَذَا فَلْيُقَدِّمْ لِنَفْسِهِ مِنْ مَالِهِ مَا يُحِبُّ فإنه إذا قدمه كان له وبين يديه ينتفع به في الدار الإقامة وإذا خلفه كان لغيره لا له وقد يكون هو ممن يحبسه عن النفقة في سبيل الله فيراه يوم القيامة في ميزان غيره فيتحسر على ذلك فيدخل هو بماله النار ويدخل وارثه به الجنة فالعاقل هو من قدم من ماله ما يحبه فيفوز به في دار الإقامة فإن من أحب شيء استصحبه ولا يدعوه لغيره فيندم حين لا ينفع الندم. He then says, rahimahullah ta'ala, those who understand this and who realize this, they should put something forth for their souls. Invest for your own soul. That which is for you and that which is for other than yourself. He says there may be some money or some wealth that you leave behind for someone else, and you kept it from spending in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's cause with regards to that individual. On the day of judgment, you may see it in someone else's scale of good deeds. You and your wealth may go to hell, and that person and your wealth may what? Go to Jannah. What you could have spent, and what you could have done, and what you left behind. The money that you should have spent when you were alive, you left behind, and someone took it and he spent it what? In the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, so the aql, the intelligent one, the smart one, he or she who's wise is he who realizes the eternal abode, darul iqama, success in the hereafter. And that is because he who loves something, truly loves something, he's always close to that thing. He's always what? Close to that thing. So if you really love your wealth, or if you really love your nafs, then you should do what with your wealth? Keep it close to you. And how can it be closer to you than what? Spending it in the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everybody understand this? Spending it what? In the cause of Allah, the mighty and the exalted. We'll stop here. Whereas there are many pages left in the book. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. We ask Allah to allow us to implement this hadith, to learn from it, to benefit from it, and to advise others therewith. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Inshallah.
Can I ask a question? Boiling point of water is 212 degrees. Boiling point of metal is 15 degrees.
Allah musta'an. Jazakallah khairan. Allah help us all. And that's in the worldly life. How it's going to be in the hereafter, the exact way in the hereafter, is it boiled, is it melted? Only Allah truly knows. May Allah help us all.
I had a question. I wasn't here for the first 30 minutes. I thought you start from the beginning.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
Ya Ali. MashaAllah alayk. Ma ajmala thawbaka.
MashaAllah.
Tabarakallah.
Jazakallah khairan.
Fadl Ali, ركز.
Okay. If there's a brother and sister, they have the guy, he has like 4 wives, and they have so many children. So before this guy, before their father passed away, the guy have bought the house that he don't pay. He have like credit on it, like say 1,000, I think 2,000 left on it. So he passed away now 8-9 years. They don't sell the property, but the guy is still on. They still credit on the debt.
طيب.
So what do you can tell about this?
Does he own? He said he owned the house,
He owned the house,
but he still owes.
it was like 2,000, I think, around 2,000.
Question says, with regards to a man who has 4 wives and many children, he leaves behind a house and he still owes money for this house, a couple of $1,000s, whatever the case may be. What is the ruling, or yani, what do you have to say about this? We say that when the Muslim dies, his or her wealth is to be handled in the following manner. Number 1, at-tajheez, preparation of the body, washing the body, shrouding the body, burying the body, making the prayer, etc. That's the very first thing to be taken from the wealth. Number 2 is the debt. That which he or she owes is to be taken care of. Is to be what? Taken care of. Before anything else. Number 3 is the will. The wasiyah. The people, those individuals that he mentioned in his will, they should be given what he mentioned and requested for them to be given, according to the Sharia. There are rules with regards to how much and who you can and cannot mention in the will, which you don't have the time to explain right now. Last but not least is the inheritance. The inheritance. The people who remain, those legislative heirs, whether it's his wife, son, uncle, father, whoever is a warith, which is a long discussion in itself, then they get their portions. That's how the wealth is supposed to be what? Distributed. So the very first thing after his body being prepared is his debts. So that's what they need to figure out and take care of, because it's very serious and it's very dangerous. The Muslim dying and having a debt. And we know what the Prophet ﷺ tells us about the debt, how it is not forgiven, and how the soul can be held back because of its debt. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Fadal.
You said how if you leave back money and somebody would spend that righteously as a sadaqah, you wouldn't get any reward for that?
Well, yani, you didn't leave the money back for him to spend it. I didn't want to give you the money, period. You are a student of knowledge. You're my brother. Let's say blood brother. You're my brother in Islam. Let's say you're my blood brother, right? And you're overseas studying. I have a lot of money. And I give you the money. You can use it. It can help you out. You can benefit the Muslims. You can learn. Everybody understand this? But for one reason or another, I say, no, it's my money. You can work. Just like I work, you work. Everybody understand this? What did the brother say? No one should get paid to study Islam. No one should be paid to study Islam. You can work like I work. This is America. This is what I say. So when I die, one way or another, the money goes what? To you. You buy books, you perform righteousness, you seek knowledge, whatever the case may be. It doesn't mean that I get a reward for it. For 2 reasons. Number 1 is that wasn't my intention from day 1. The exact opposite. And number 2, I didn't have the specific intention of giving it to him. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّةِ. The Prophet says deeds are based off of what? Intentions. Wallahu alam.
What is the manhaj of Hizbul is it allowed to work with?
We mentioned the other night that we were not answering that question.
Is it permissible to sell a masjid and get a bigger one and move to a new location? And or sell the property and it becomes other than a masjid?
The question says, is it permissible to sell a masjid, sell the property and get a bigger one, correct? And the second part was what?
Or to a new location, or sell the property and it becomes other than a masjid.
First and foremost is, a masjid is supposed to be an endowment. In the Sharia Islamiyah, something called waqf, or sabil, or tasbil. Something that's for Allah and only Allah. And the endowment is not to be given as a gift. It's not to be inherited. It's not to be sold. It's supposed to remain for Allah's sake. This is the original concept of a masjid. Everybody understand this? In America or the UK, are the masjids endowments or are they rented properties? Everybody understand this? Revamped, rehabilitated houses, storefronts, basements, in which when this person dies, it goes to someone else. If the city comes and shuts it down, if they don't pay their rent, etc. Everybody understand this? Was the masjid built from the ground up or was it rehabilitated? Who owns it? Whose name is on the deed? Is it for Allah or is it for an individual? Everybody clear on this? So the masjid is supposed to be for Allah, waqf. And the waqf, the endowment, is not to be sold, is not to be traded in and switched. No. Everybody understand this? If it became dilapidated and it was falling down and crumbling to pieces and they rebuilt it, or let's say they moved it over a little bit in another location. Everybody understand this? Something like this, then that's one thing. But to just totally sell it and get rid of it, then what happens with that money? What happens with that wealth? Who keeps that wealth? Where's the masjid going to be? Everybody understand this? So the details of the fuqaha with regards to the endowment when it's no longer beneficial. Too small, the building is outdated, whatever the case may be. But the concept of the masjid in America or in the UK, is it an endowment from the beginning? Everybody understand this? So if it's not an endowment, then that's one thing. It's not necessarily waqf from the get-go. And that's why many of the people of knowledge, they say that the masjids are not actually masjids, but they're musalliyat. They're musallas. And it's not something in which is an actual house for Allah, of Allah. That's only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's in brief. Wallahu ta'ala alam. As we said once again, the masjid, that's an endowment. It's no longer used. It's no longer benefited therefrom. Rebuilding it, that's one thing. Everybody clear on this? Keeping a clear track on the money, making a bigger one, that's one thing. Taking it, going to another place, removing it, it's a different story. Wallahu ta'ala alam.
Two questions, but I want just a little bit more clarification on. The first question is clarification on the endowment. So if the community sees a building, they want to buy that building and make it into a masjid, so they gather their money to buy the building. That would be considered an endowment?
Type, next question.
With respect to the wealth, so if you leave a will, and let's say you have a house, and the house is free and clear, Riba, anything like that. You leave the house, let's say to your wife or your family, but then you have debt that needs to be paid. Should then your house be sold to cover that debt? Or how does that work? Where does the money come from to pay that debt?
As far as the first question with regards to the Muslims coming together, spending their money to buy something for a lost cause. If they buy it, it's no longer rented, and it is a place that cannot be anything else except for a masjid. Rain, sleet, hail, snow. Then that's one thing. As far as the building is owned by a treasurer, by this one, by that one, it can turn into another building. We don't have the money, we get kicked out, whatever the case may be. It's a different story. That's a what? That's a different story. As far as the debt, the house, what is a person to do? Sell the house? This goes back to the shura of the family members and the heirs. What is most beneficial? Is it most beneficial to sell the house and pay off his debts first? Or should we keep this property and all work together collectively and repaying his debts, paying off his debts? The house may be a very good house, a very fine house, a very fine piece of real estate. It's going to be worth more money. We may have to live in it one day. And it may be unwise to sell the house to rush to pay off the debts. So all of them want to have to sit down and make sure what's feasible, what's practical. and what's most important. Obviously, necessity being placed before need, and need being placed before perfection. Wallahu ta'ala alam. The sunnah of a credit card is that the Prophet ﷺ cursed all of the party members of Riba. All of them. He who eats it, akilu riba wa mukilahu. Who gives it and who takes it. He who writes it down, he who bears witness to the riba, they're all cursed. And the Prophet said at the end of this authentic hadith, وَهُمْ sawa. He says they're equal. All of them are equal. So dealing with riba, eating from riba, giving riba, cooperating with riba is haram and it's a major sin. Period. Whether you call it a credit card, debit card, this, that, al-muhim, your hand is in the mix of riba, one way or another. Everybody clear on this? Anything to do with a bank is involved with what? Riba, one way or another. Whether it's halal or haram, necessity, a need, you have to have a card. Al-muhim, you have to get from the beginning. The asl is that it's all one institution of riba. Everybody understand this? I have a card in which I don't pay interest. That's good. Alhamdulillah. But you're still a member of that what? Of that bank that is fed and nourished and feeds and nourishes others with riba. Clear on this? So let's just stick with the bank for right now. Let's not move too far, too fast. Everybody clear on this? Your money is being used in what? Their system. So that's first and foremost, and that's the reality. Now, we didn't get into is it permissible because it's a necessity, because it's a ultimate need, it's a hardship, and also dollar bills. Just because you have dollar bills don't mean that you're free from riba as well, especially in America. Is there gold and silver for every dollar bill? Is it represented? You understand the point we're trying to get to? So before you go any further, you have to understand that you're in the mix of riba. That's first and foremost. Obviously, when there are two harms, two dangerous things, you take the lesser of the two. Having a debit card, it's not like necessarily having a credit card. But why is a credit card haram? What makes a credit card haram? Number one, first and foremost, before the interest, they say you're cooperating upon sin and transgression. Secondly is what? Is interest. What is the interest of the credit card? Explain it. What's the interest of a credit card?
Interest is saying that I basically whatever percentage of whatever amount of money you borrow, you have to pay a percentage on top of that.
Tight. The money that you spend with the card, you have to what? You pay what? You pay extra. In other words, the credit card in actuality is nothing more than a token of debt. Is this not the case? According to what you just mentioned. It's a certificate of what? Of debt. You show this ticket to these people, slide it through the machine. The bank is going to pay you back. Correct? And I'm going to pay the bank back later on with what? That's riba. Everybody clear on this? Is this the only policy of a credit card? Another policy. Pay yearly. What do you pay yearly for? For having the card. So this is considered a card to be what? Is this interest? Or is this a fee? Or is it a service fee? That's the name and the title, but its actuality is what? Everybody understand this? So therefore you have the option of which card that you want to get. The first option, clear. Second option, the person says, I need a credit card, I want a credit card. I'm not going to do the first option, correct? I'm going to pay a yearly fee. How much is the yearly fee? $49. And what are you allowed to do with the card? Whatever you want to do it. Everybody understand this? You what? And you still might have the problem of what?
Interest,
Late fees. Everybody understand this?
If you use a credit card, say you put $1,000, if you pay $1,000,
You're just paying a fee. So now let's critically ask ourselves a question. Is it haram to pay a service fee? That's the first question. Number two, is it valid to say that $49, that is riba? Is that valid to say that? Third scenario is the debit card, in which there's no debt. Whatever you have in your account is what you what? Is what you buy. And you also have to pay a monthly what? Fee. So is that haram in itself? Is that riba? Or are you paying to be a what? A member and to enjoy the convenience of the what? Of the card. Everybody understand this? No matter what, debit, credit, option 1, scenario A, scenario B, your name, your information is in their system. And that's the system of what? Of riba. Everybody clear on this? We can all agree on this, yes or no? We agree on this or not? So therefore, if it's a necessity, durura, for you to have a card, or if it isn't a necessity but it's a hardship, a felt hardship, there's no doubt about it, with regards to traveling, renting a car, something happens, some places, some establishments that don't accept cash, and the cash is problematic in itself, then that's one thing. Obviously the believer is going to try to take the what? The least. Buying unnecessary products, unnecessary services, here and there, that's a problem in itself. Everybody understand this? So therefore, the concept of eating from riba is haram. Feeding people with riba is what? It's haram. Anything that's against Allah and His Messenger, if it's a necessity, if it's a hardship, a clear hardship, and not just a presupposed hardship, then it has special rulings with regards to that. Let alone Muslims being minorities, let alone living in a place which is not an Islamic state, quote unquote. So the believer, he has to be honest with himself. Do I need this card? Or is it a want? Do I have to have this card, or is it a want? Everybody understand this? If a person feels that he needs it and it's a hardship and it's a difficulty, then let him fear Allah to the best of his ability. Let him fear Allah to what? The best of his ability. The Prophet ﷺ, he said that riba is from the 7 destructive sins. Ijtanibu sab'a al-mubiqat. He says avoid the 7 destroyers. And from them he says it's riba. Wallahu ta'ala. Obviously this is in brief. Question says, how can I develop a love and a habit for reading? First and foremost is that you need to realize that it's a need to read. There is a need to read. Reading, and the Muslim, not even the Muslim, just a wise person, an intellectual individual, is nothing like reading. You can go here, you can see this, you can watch this, you can hear this. There's nothing like reading a good book. The best and closest companion you can have is a what? Is a good book. So that's first and foremost. That's what? That's first and foremost. As far as the Muslim, then he knows that Iman and Ilm go like this, hand in hand. The Talib al-Ilm, a student of knowledge, he knows that seeking knowledge, learning, studying, and books go like what? Finger and finger, one finger. Not even like this, just one. The index and the middle finger become what? Intertwined. There's no way you can be a successful student of knowledge with proper eyesight, if you have the eyesight, and not read books. As far as if you're born blind, then that's a different story. But you can read, you do have eyes, and you don't read, there's no way that you're going to be successful. There's no way that you're going to be strong, a benefit to yourself and a benefit to others. Everybody understand this? So the first way of developing a habit and a love for reading is to realize the necessity of it. How do I realize, or how do I get to love my wife? Realizing that you need your wife. That you what? You need her. It's a necessity. It's a necessity for my deen, for my body, for my mind. I need my wife. And the more you need a thing, the closer attached you are to that thing. Everybody understand this? Number 2 is that you have to realize that reading is not only a necessity, but it's enjoyable, it's sweet, it's pleasurable. And it may not come to you all at once in the beginning. Sit down, get a nice good book and try it out. 10 minutes out the day, 15 minutes out the day. Jarrib, try it out. And bi'idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala, with a sincere intention, with an empty cup, with an open mind, you'll start tasting the sweetness of the book, even if it isn't an Islamic book. People who don't read, they sit down, they pick up a good novel, and they get what? They get stuck. But most people, they're not going to pick up the novel from the beginning because they hate reading so much. It's boring, it's time consuming. But those who actually do try it out, they're going to find some type of what? Pleasure and enjoyment in reading. So if that's with the dunya, a love story, romance, a gangster book, this person, that person. And what about Allah and His Rasul? What about the deen? What about the grave? How more enjoyable and pleasurable is that going to be? Everybody understand this? Thirdly is, you have to hang around people who read. You have to accompany yourself with those who read. Those who talk and laugh and joke all day, you're not going to pick up a book. You have to be with people that are bookworms. My idea of a good time, of a fun time of hanging out is going to the bookstore. Going to the bookstore, buying books, looking at books, reading books. Let's sit down and let's get some fawaid from these books. Those who want to laugh and joke and play and have fun and run around all day, you're not going to pick up a book. Rather, if you pick up a book, they may make fun of you and laugh at you. As they say, save it for the library. They say, what? Save it for the library. Yo, he's a nerd, he's a bookworm, he's a geek, he's this and he's that. They're going to mock you. But if you hang around other people that are bookworms, they're going to mock you and make fun of you for not reading books in abundance. You call yourself a student of knowledge? You never read Tafsir ibn Kathir from cover to cover? And you call yourself a student of ilm? Talib ilm? They want to look down at you like a fool. As far as those who are pleased with ignorance, you read Ibn Kathir? Like what? 4 big volumes? But to a serious, ardent reader, that's nothing. He's read Tafsir ibn Kathir 10 times, cover to cover. So it's all about the company that you keep. إِنَّ الطِّيُورَ عَلَى أَشْكَالِهَا تَقَعُ. Birds of a feather, what? Flock together. And last but not least, most importantly, is to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make reading beloved to you. Ask Allah to give you that gift. You may not like reading. You may dislike reading. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give it to you. And bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, when you make effort, you make a sincere, earnest attempt, Allah will make it easy for you. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَمَعَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Those who fight and strive hard for our cause, we will surely guide them. And Allah is with those of ihsan, the people of al-ihsan. Wallahu alam.
Is it permissible for men to wear items of clothing that contain mixed fibers, from silk, for example, 30% silk, 70% wool?
First and foremost is, the Muslim should avoid it if he can. He should stay away from wearing garments that are blends, mixtures of fabrics, wool and silk, cotton, polyester, etc. He should avoid it. He should avoid the khilaf. And that is because of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ regarding the impermissibility of pure gold and pure silk upon the male followers of al-Islam. The ummah of Muhammad ﷺ are forbidden from wearing silk and gold, as is mentioned in the abundant hadith of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ. That's first and foremost. As far as if it isn't pure gold, if it isn't pure silk, and the silk is far less than the other type of fabric, then there's an issue in which many of the people of knowledge said is not included in the prohibition. And what's meant by the prohibition is pure absolute silk. Pure and absolute silk. That gives the arrogance, that gives the pride, and that gives the feminine, soft nature of the clothes. As far as that which is a blend, let alone it's a low percentage. A low percentage. The blend is far less than they say is permissible because of those wisdoms. And this is what we call thiyab al-khaz or thiyab al-qaz. And many of the companions of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, they wore these type of garments with the condition that the silk was far what? Far less. However, the layman Muslim should avoid that to the best of his or her ability. Wallahu ta'ala alam.
So in that case, then, if a man is wearing, because some men still wear gold rings and that, are they allowed to do that if it's not 24 karat gold?
We say if it's pure gold, then it's absolutely haram without any difference of opinion. Absolutely haram. No matter or regardless of the grade of gold, it's different types of gold. No matter how many carats, it's different types of gold. As far as something that is plated or flash color, things like this, terms they mention like this, then that's a different story. But if it's gold in and out, regardless, high quality, low quality, it's haram. Period. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Silver is fine for men, alhamdulillah. هذا والله أعلم وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا محمد جزاكم الله خيرا.
Please don't miss no more class.
You want some water?
Yeah, need some money this call.
Barakallahu feek.